So if for some reason you find it so intriguing that you want to listen to it again in the future, you will have that option. How this webinar will roll is that we're going to go ahead and go through the entire webinar and then take questions at the end. We've muted everybody, so we'll unmute, and then people can, if they've muted their own personal phones, they can unmute themselves and ask questions. You know, so please make notes as we go of things that are unclear, and then we'll do our best to backtrack and get to everybody. Oh my goodness. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. Assuming that's what you guys can see. Okay, so I'm just trying to get the screen sharing part to show what I wanted to show, so hold on a minute.
Great.
Okay, this will get bigger, I promise. So I want to start by just sharing that the income calculation tool and the public benefits eligibility test is part of a statewide pilot. All IDA providers are using this tool, and we want to encourage people to bring to our attention places where the tool does not work or could work better in its actual functionality, and also instances where the public benefit eligibility test does not catch people who are over income. It's because it's a pilot, it's hard to capture all potential flaws. And so it is really important that you help us understand where it is not as usable in the real world situations. Some things to keep in mind about the public benefit eligibility test. First of all, the public benefits chosen are all use similar sources of income as the Oregon IDA initiative. The public benefits chosen all recertify income eligibility at least annually. The household income limits for eligibility are less than the Oregon IDA initiative in all cases. So our income limits by household size are more generous for the maximum than all of these public benefits. It was designed as a way of simplifying the paperwork collection process. That may not end up being a true thing, but that was what it was intended for. And once the application's been approved, you as the specialist become their advocate. However, leading up to that application being submitted, it's important that you're advocating for the program and its eligibility criteria. We don't expect anyone to be a detective. We don't want people digging to try to find additional income or anything like that. But if a situation presents itself where more information is made available to you, and you know that someone has a higher income limit than simply what their public benefits demonstrate, then we have to defer to the higher of the two at this point in time. So in today's webinar, we're going to review the structure and usage of the tool itself. We're going to look at some examples of how the tool is being used in some case studies, and then we're going to review the assessment tool that we attempted to make for you. All right, let's get started. Some of this has been a little glitchy in when I'm changing screens, so let me know, or I guess you can't let me know, but hopefully it'll work. You'll be able to see what I'm looking at. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, would someone be willing to put into chat if you can see the income tool with a bunch of glowing arrows? Okay, thank you. You guys are really good and responsive through that. Okay, so this is the tool itself. We're going to start on the first tab. Want to point out to everyone that there's a section on this first tab where you enter the participant or applicant rather's name. The name carries over to all other tabs. So if you put it there, it'll continue on for every tab. If you miss it, we'll be doing it, so don't worry, but it is a helpful piece of information that you can add to your tool. The first section here, as we mentioned before, it's out of place, the idea of putting the net worth information on this tool, and we don't have any other net worth conversations at this point in this tool. So that's certainly something we're hoping.
They can't see it.
They can't see it? Oh, hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Technology. Oh, can't see you.
See, I think the middle one needs to be clicked. Yeah.
Okay. Can you guys see it now? Okay, thanks. So somehow when I close the little dashboard about this, then I lose some screen usage. So some of the words on here are going to be covered up for me. I apologize. Hopefully you guys can see them. So anyway, the net worth section's out of place. Hopefully by the time you've gotten to this point, you've looked at their application, or you know that they're going to be passing the net worth test. If you don't, go back and fill this box in. We will fill it in. Farther down, we have the question number 2 regarding the public benefits eligibility test. If you choose one of these, then we would expect to have some sort of backup documentation about using that benefit in lieu of income verification. If you're not going to be able to provide that proof, don't bother choosing one of these. Just put none. But if you can provide that proof, then go ahead and fill that in. Let's say you fill in Section 8. I'm trying to get them to figure out how to make it default to yes or no. But assuming that you choose Section 8 or one of those other public benefits, and then you answer yes, you don't have to do anything else. This would be the end of the process. If you choose none, then we're going to expect to see income verification, and then we would move on to the next tab. Question 3 here, auto answers based on the calculations from the income calculator tab. So you don't have to fill anything out there. The AFI eligibility test tab, that is more for your information if you're unsure about how to determine if someone's going to use AFI. It is not a part of this tool that you need to be using. It's just for educational purposes. So then we'll move to the income calculator itself. Let's see if I can scroll up. Okay. So again, the name carries over here. This box right here is the applicant's county and the applicant's household. Those directly correspond to farther down here when we'll find the household size and county income limits. So you want to make sure you fill those in. Everything that's yellow is something that you should fill in. Anything that's not yellow is going to be password protected and can't be edited. Sorry. It seems like every single time I get an email notification, it turns off the screen sharing. So I apologize about that. Actually, give me one quick second. I'm going to pause and close my email so that stops happening. Okay. Okay. Are we back? Can everyone see that? Okay. So you're going to want to put in the name of whichever household member has a source of income here. You'll choose their income source here from the drop down. And then here you're going to put the number of paychecks that you've collected, which should directly correspond to the frequency. So if somebody is paid monthly, and this requires that we have 2 months of pay stubs. So if someone is paid monthly, you'll choose monthly. It automatically detects that that means that there's 12 paychecks, and you're going to enter at least 2 times for 2 paychecks. You want to make sure when you do this that you do not leave zeros in boxes that are not meant to be filled in, because it counts it as a month, which changes the average. So for example, you would put 500 and 500, and it's going to tell you what the annual income is over here. See if I can scroll. Right here. If for some reason, let's say I put another 500, and then I'm like, oh, oops. See how it changed the annual income? Because it was looking at an average of 3 pay stubs, of which one was 0. So you want to make sure you don't put 0, you put backspace. And that will put it back to the actual average income. Like I said, the frequency will automatically pull a formula, so you want to make sure that you have that correct. It can definitely be sometimes confusing between 2 times a month and biweekly. From what I remember and from what I can tell, biweekly paychecks get 3 paychecks in July and in September. And so that would be, like right now we're seeing a lot of biweekly pay stubs because they received 3 in September. Okay, so then hold on one second, let me scroll. Why can't I scroll?
Can you go down with your arrow?
There we go.
I think we lost the screen.
Okay. Yeah. So
Every time the screen.
Okay. It's annoying.
Yes.
If anybody has recommendations about a better system for doing these, feel free to email me at rebecca@casaoregon.org. Yes, send it to .com and then I won't get it. So the total of all of the household incomes that you fill in from this tab is going to all add up right here. And then, as I had mentioned, the county and household size, that's going to depend how this is filled in here. This box, which is hard to see without anything put in it, is going to be filled in based on anything that goes into the inconsistent income tab. So if you don't have any inconsistent income that you're reporting on, nothing will show up here. It's important to also know that this box is the total of all of the annual household income, including the inconsistent income box. It's not broken out by person. So that's something that I'll be asking them to do, because I visually like to see it broken out separate from the inconsistent income. Okay, so that's the tool itself. Let me see here. The inconsistent income tab, there's room for 2 different people or 2 different types of work for that one person. So you'll fill in, this top section is only if they receive inconsistent income that is not seasonal or self-employment. So for example, they get paid cash to do babysitting. So you'll put the type of work, which is just a description, very brief about what they're doing. You'll put the frequency that they're being paid, the method of payment, and the type of verification. Because we realize that sometimes people are receiving income in a variety of ways that may not be as easy to get something formal from an employer, we can do something as simple as a written statement with a signature from the applicant themselves. But that's only when we can't get something from a, or they're not comfortable asking the person who pays them cash. Here we're going to put the last 4 times that they were paid through this. And so if these 4 checks are over 6 months, then you would put a 6 here. If these 4 checks are over 1 month, you would put a 1. This has to be at least 1, or else it messes up the formula. But if this is blank, then it won't do anything to it won't create income where there isn't any. So that will then create an income right here. If someone has small business income, you're going to put in the total. You don't have to put in the number of paychecks or anything like that. You want to put in one amount, which would be from a 6-month profit and loss, but then you have to annualize it. So if anyone needs help in creating a way of doing that, feel free to reach out to us, or we can come up with some tips on how to come up with that annualized income from a 6-month profit and loss. Similarly, the seasonal work income would go here. Seasonal work income, we don't really have a clear method of how to get that income, and so I believe the easiest thing to do is have it calculated by you, and then you tell us what you did to get that number if there's a question. But essentially, we'll be looking at whatever their proof of income is and how many months they've done it for, and that would be their seasonal income. The total will go here, and like I had mentioned, the box will carry over to right here. So I'll just show you an example. Let's say this is $5,000. It jumps there, shows up there. Okay? All right. So I'm going to mess with the screen here for a second and open up a couple samples. So give me a second. If the screen goes away, don't run away. Okay. So this is going to be our test subject number 1. The first thing to point out is that this person did not pass the public benefit eligibility test. So we put a none and we move on to a different tab. We filled in their county and their household size. This particular person, we're using test subject 1 is the only person who earns income in this household. They have traditional wages from the drop down. In this particular case, they're paid biweekly. And so because they turned in August and September pay stubs, they have 5 instead of 4. So we put in all 5 pay stubs for the 2 months. The frequency automatically chooses 26 based on biweekly. And the annual income was calculated at $48,457.19. This box here for verified and file, that's something that we're using to tell us if we have received everything that we need, or if we're waiting for more information from you, or if they're unable to provide, etc. If there was a reason to put some notes in there, so let's say well, here's something that I saw recently. So let's pretend that this last paycheck was really big by comparison to all the others. And then the notes could say last paycheck. So was bigger. So this might tell me that this is actually the very final paycheck for this job, but this was the income they earned in the last 2 months. And then we would likely be asking you, are they starting a new job? And if so, you know, what's that going to look like? So anything that looks like an anomaly that you want to point out to us, you can do that there. I don't know what that income was, but we'll just say it was $1,700. Okay. So it does all the math for you. You can see that here under annual household income, it carried down. The state income limit for Multnomah County for a family of 4 is filled in here. The federal for a household of 4 is filled in there. And then it's telling us, yes, they qualify based on income, and it's also alerting us that there might be AFI funding eligibility. When it says AFI funding, please remember it does not know what your assets category is, and so this is just a general statement for helping us to figure out if you qualify or not. This is a standard Paychex simple use of the calculator. Something I do want to bring to your attention is that if this is the annual income from the calculator, that would be the annual income that you put into Outcome Tracker when you fill in an application. Try to make sure that they match. All right, I'm going to switch to another example. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. This is test subject number 2. This person also didn't pass the public benefit eligibility test. We chose their county and their household size, but here they have multiple household members who are earning income. So we put in the first person, chose their rate, their type of income, put their paychecks and the frequency, and you can see that we've done this for each person. You want to make sure if it's weekly that you collect 8 paychecks. The whole amount is totaled here at the bottom for all people. You can see here for that county and that household size that this household was over income. Let me open one more. Okay. So test subject number 3 provided proof of Section 8. So because they have Section 8 assistance and they filled the section in, I'm assuming that there should be backup to be included. I have a sample of what backup could look like. Hold on 1 second and let me try to see if I can show it to you. Okay, so here's an example that was provided. Here this tells me that the date it was modified is right here on 9/9, so it's recent. It tells me the program was Section 8. Up here it even tells me what their calculated adjusted monthly income is. That's not required of this, but it's certainly helpful. It also helps to flag whether we have information that would be, for some reason, different than what we would allow. And that's essentially it. It tells us, underneath these black boxes, it has their name, and so that's helpful too. Obviously, we need to be able to connect it to the person, but it has their information, what type of benefit it is, and the date it was modified. And that's it. That's all we need for this person. The only difference is that we would also need a pay stub or a tax return if this person was AFI eligible. So again, if you know that they're saving for an AFI eligible savings goal and you've determined that they should be AFI eligible, go ahead and send in that pay stub and the tax return. If not, we'll ask for it if there's a chance that they could be AFI eligible. But in this particular situation, the income calculator tab is blank. You don't have to fill it in. Yes, so in a situation where, I'll see now, I just lost what you wanted me to repeat. Give me a second, let me finish this and then I'll see if I can retrace what you had asked me to repeat. The income calculator tab is blank. If somebody, about the AFI eligibility. If somebody has a source of income that's earned and they're saving for home ownership, small business, or education, but you don't have to collect all those pay stubs, you're providing this proof of Section 8, all you have to provide us with is a pay stub or their most recent tax return, and that will suffice to give us proof of the earned income, but we'll be using the Section 8 as their eligibility criteria. I know it's kind of confusing and complicated, and it's what we were able to come up with to try to make this public benefit eligibility test work and meet AFI criteria. So, you know, as we practice this, if it doesn't feel natural or it seems more difficult, let's work together trying to come up with an easier solution. Okay, so the last example, trying to get the hang of yelling at me that you can't see the screen. Okay, so the last example for test subject 4, this person qualified for the public benefit eligibility test but could not provide proof. So question 2, even though they came in through perhaps a public housing organization or they had food stamps, they couldn't provide the backup, and so they opted not to use that as the criteria. So we went ahead and collected income, and then we have the information here. In this particular situation, so they have income that carried down here, but they also have inconsistent income. And in this inconsistent income, we have a small business, and I'll just show you that we didn't fill out anything on the top here because it's just the small business income that we're capturing for this one. And then there's a second person in the household who also has inconsistent income. Oh, sorry. I really hate pop-ups. Okay. And so in this particular situation, they do house cleaning, they get paid weekly with cash, they provided a written statement. Here's all the different cash paychecks that they've received, and that was over the course of 1 month. And so the average monthly income is $200, and it is automatically determining that the annual inconsistent income for that person is $2,400. So the $2,400 plus the $12,500 for the small business income has automatically carried over to the income calculator tool. And so we're looking at an annual household income of $28,400. And of course it's comparing the county and household size, and it tells us that they qualify and they may qualify for AFI. So these are 4 different scenarios that are all very typical, pretty standard, and in most cases, even if people aren't using the public benefit eligibility test piece, I've been finding that using the calculator itself has been very helpful. It takes the work out of having to do the math, as long as you have all the paychecks. That's the only thing. So with that said, I do want to show you an assessment tool that we worked on. I I don't think it's perfect. Hold on one second. La-di-da. Okay. No. Okay. I don't think it's perfect, but the idea of this assessment tool is that it would, or pre-screening tool, is that it would be something that you could hand to an applicant before collecting all of their paperwork to help identify whether you could simply collect public benefit eligibility criteria information, or if you would need to collect additional pay stub information. So the questions are fairly simple. Do you receive any of the following? Have any circumstances changed since you received these benefits? These were the only two that I could think of that could impact household eligibility. And so I'm very much seeking input as to whether there's other circumstances other than household composition change or income change that could tell us that maybe they wouldn't qualify for public benefits any longer if they were recertified. The last time that those benefits have been verified, can they provide official proof? Is that proof older than 12 months? And then, does anyone in their household receive any of the following types of income? And if so, who and what kind? And so this way, these are just the major ones. I didn't put all, 20 different types of income sources. But this way, if somebody has, let's say they have TANF, and then they also circle that they have wages and child support and retirement, that might lead you to ask for some of that information because it could be that their TANF expires this month. I will say that, I feel like some of this is a little conflicting and complicated because someone qualifies for something now and we're asking for other information, but we've always had a policy of using the most current and most true information and annualizing forward. So we'll continue to work with neighborhood partnerships to advocate for the things that make the most sense for the whole initiative, but your guys' feedback in this process is really critical. Like I said, I don't know if this tool will be as helpful as I hope it will be, but I'm hoping that it'll at least prevent you from having to collect a ton of information that you don't need to use, or having you send in a bunch of information that we're not going to use. So if you want to think about it, try using it, send feedback, that would be great. We'll post this to the websites by the end of the week. So, with that said, I'm going to see if I can unmute people. Okay, so I'm going to unmute everybody. If hopefully people won't all talk at the same time, but if you want to ask a question, we'll do our best to answer it. And if you have your own phone muted, you'll want to unmute yourself. So everyone's unmuted right now. If anyone wants to ask a question, let me know.
So Rebecca?
Yes.
This is Amanda from MFS. I was wondering if a person we're working with receives more than one public benefit.
Yes.
Is it possible to record all of those in the income calculation tool, or needed to, or do we just select one from the drop-down menu?
Yeah, so you only need to collect one, and I would say collect the easiest one. So for some of our specialists, the easiest one is perhaps the service that they're receiving through that organization. like housing, for example, because they can just print off information really easily. In other cases, it might be that perhaps they can get a SNAP award letter easier than they can get through to their housing person. So only one is necessary. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
I have a question.
Okay.
So if they do qualify based on the income calculator, do we need to save that spreadsheet and send over to you guys with the application?
That would be great. We're going to create one if you don't send it. So my
Okay.
preference would be yes, send it, because if you're taking the time to use it for your own, to figure out eligibility anyway, it would be great
Right.
if we have it on file, but we'll create one anyway if you don't send it.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say is when you're using the public benefit eligibility tool, or test rather, when you input an application online, you don't have to put in any income information. You just choose from the drop down which of those you're using, and then all the income boxes stay blank. If you're using income, then you would put in the income amount and leave the drop down blank, or put none. We have a question from someone who doesn't have a mic, so I'm going to ask Vanessa, go ahead and type in your question, and then I will, oh wait, you did. If they qualify for the public benefits, do we have to turn in that page that says yes? Oh, you mean the first tab of the tool? Yeah, my preference would be that you turn in the whole tool, but because that seems, I mean, it's only one tab and you're just choosing a drop down. So if it's easier to just, let's go ahead and say no. If you're just using the public benefit eligibility test, just make sure it's very clear to us that you're sending in the public benefit backup, and you don't have to send the spreadsheet just to say yes on the tab. We can do that ourselves. Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Could you let us know what specifically people should include in the written statement if they are doing like babysitting or house cleaning, what information to include?
Yeah, definitely. I would include the name of the person, the date, the frequency, the amount that they're paid. So frequency being like how many hours they work, or how often, or if they get paid a flat amount per week, then it could say, I receive $50 per week. I'm paid twice a month. So amount of pay, frequency of pay, and then I think a brief description of who they do that work for. It doesn't have to be, I don't want people to feel like they're identifying that their boss pays them cash under the table, but something as informal as they're comfortable doing, and then signing. And then someone asked if the pre-screening tool is going to be on the VITA website, and it will be. We'll upload it by the end of the week.
And I think I wrote something down wrong. I'm not sure. So on the tab number 4, which is the inconsistent income,
Yes.
did you say it's not, you don't write anything there for seasonal work or self-employment?
You do put in seasonal work and self-employment, but you're not putting in, let me see if I can go back to show you. Hold on one second.
Because I wrote you don't for some reason, and then we got to the small business section. I was like, well, wait a minute.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure you guys are seeing the right screen. Okay, can you see my screen again?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So in this particular situation, if somebody has small business income or seasonal work, you're going to put in one sum for the whole year.
Okay.
But if they get paid periodically, that's when you're going to, in this section, that's when you're going to break it down by how often they were paid and how many months that was over. So typically for seasonal work or for small business, there's some sort of, like for seasonal work, there might be actual paychecks. They're just over a 3-month period instead of a 12-month period. Or for small business, there should be some sort of records to help create that number. Whereas the periodic or inconsistent income can be really all over the place.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense, Kenyatta?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. The other thing I want to let folks know is that Neighborhood Partnerships has, every time they find a issue with either a formula flaw or perhaps a field stops working, they post a new version of the calculator on their website. And so as often as we find those, we will post an updated version to our website and we will name it that way. So the version I've been using just went live last week, and so I'm going to save that as well with an updated date on it so that people know it's the most recent version. What other questions do people have? And you can chat them if that's easier, if you don't have a mic. Nancy, I think you're trying to talk, but I don't hear you. You might have your phone muted.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. I just saw your name show up, so. Okay, well, if no one has any other questions, then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We will post the recording by the end of the week, and then if people have additional questions, feel free to send us an email. I will also just want to let folks know again that we are slowly trying to catch up with enrollments. We appreciate everyone's patience, but we will have a new person starting next week, and that should help speed up the process. So with that, thank you again, and happy Halloween, and hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.